Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace here, dropping in on you this Tuesday morning, hoping to share with you some insights and principles, techniques that will help you become more centered, more focused, more confident in your own capacity to do the things in life that deep down inside you know you want to do. What I'm going to talk to you today is about redefining your self-concept or your self-image and centering in on your destiny as you begin to redefine or reconstruct your self-image. Before I get started, I want to share with you two things that I'm always excited about. I'm currently working on book number 20, which is Critical Mass, the comprehensive guide to living your life at the level of your design. If you've heard me speak, if you read any of my publications, books, writings, one of the things that I am extremely passionate about is helping people learn how to live at the level of their design, or taking on a next level living mindset. Living life at the next level is an idea of there's always a ladder to climb, always a stairway to climb, always something that you can be doing to better yourself. And it is immensely valuable to us when we're able to take on a mindset of next level living. But I talk a lot about living life at the level of your design. And Critical Mass is a book that goes into great detail in revealing multitudinous techniques that I use with my clients that I work with one-on-one to help them, first and foremost, develop a clear vision of what it is they want, become very, very focused and in tuned on it, then to examine themselves and see what things are inhibiting them from having the things that they see in this vision, in this image that is so important to them. These desires, these hopes, these goals, these aspirations. One of the most powerful catalysts for energy to compete in life at a high level is desire. What you desire, your why, is so immensely important in determining the force in which you engage something. I see a lot of casual engagement when I am engaging or encountering others. I see a lot of people who are haphazardly or casually doing something, or doing something at a level that's just good enough to get by, not really truly invested. A lot of times people aren't invested in what they're doing because it's not really what they want to be doing. It's what they believe they have to be doing. And there is nothing, to me personally, more draining than doing something solely because I believe I have to, and not finding any pleasure in it. If it's something I'm doing that I just have to do, it's from a decision that I made at some point in my life that locked me into this belief that this is what I have to do. Or it's some decision I made that put me in a decision where I have to do it. Whatever the situation is, I have to understand that I have the capacity to change the situation. I have an capacity to create a different reality for myself. But I have to come out of this idea that I am trapped into doing something I absolutely hate doing because I have to. The thing is, we develop these limiting beliefs, these erroneous ideas, concepts, and precepts based off of what is fed to us early in life by people who have taken on these same erroneous concepts from people who came before them. Nobody dares to examine what's outside of the box. I'm huge on lateral thinking. Get outside of the box. Find out what's going on in the world outside of the box that you're living in, because that's where you're going to find many of the answers that you have never been able to have access to. That's where you're going to find a great deal of the providence and support for the visions and dreams that you have for your life. It's outside of the box. Living inside of the box that's been created for you limits your capacity to actually move and be mobile. It limits your ability to think because you have been for so long allowing someone else to think for you. And what I do in critical mass is I go through a number of different practices. Over the course of the last 30 years, I've come up on numerous disciplines that have to deal with human behavior, human performance. And that's been my goal, is always to find out. First and foremost, I've always had a passion for psychology. So that was the start of it. Then I learned there's so much about psychology that I couldn't even fathom. I'm still examining it from so many different angles. But what I learned is it's just a doorway. It's just a doorway. There's so much more. There's psycho-cybernetics, there's neuro-linguistic program, there's neurological remapping, there's cognitive influences, dealing with cognitive biases and shifting cognitive biases. There's so much. And then the Holy Grail, quantum physics, the understanding the quantum field and how the quantum field and quanta respond to the impression of energy that's created literally by your thoughts, by your intentions, and by anything that you're able to generate from your mind. Intent, thoughts, beliefs, all that moves the energy in the universe. And when you understand all of this, you understand just how powerful your thoughts are in creating your reality. You can't escape your thoughts. Your thoughts are shaping your future, whether you believe it or not. I wrote a small book earlier this year entitled "Your Mind is the Genesis of Your Destiny." And it lays out specifically how when you go out into the world and you're thinking, you're planting seeds. These seeds are going through a gestational process and manifesting and producing your future reality, whether you see it or not. It's seen in your behavior. It's seen in the path that you take. It's seen in so many different areas of your life. When you are sitting up and you don't understand the power of your thoughts, and your thoughts are projecting negativity, your thoughts are projecting an idea of negative expectations. When you're expecting bad things to happen, they're going to happen. It's powerful the way the Almighty put together and held in place this unbelievably intricate order in which everything responds to everything. Nothing happens in a vacuum. Everything is responding to something else that's moving upon it, and in the form of energy. And when you can understand that, you can understand that when you can change your energy, you can change the situation. It's that simple in concept and principle, but it takes work, but it can be done. In that book, which the link to Critical Mass, where you can pre-order the book at a discounted price. You will also, if you pre-order the book, you get a signed copy, but you'll also get the interactive ebook for free. And don't sleep on the interactive ebook. The way that I create my ebooks, I love it. The way I create my ebooks is that they're highly expansive. And what I mean by that is there's the information that I've put in this ebook that I took the time to write. But then there are these links that go to other resources and other teachings that give you a exposure to what other people that are in this particular field of study, or in this particular industry, or in this particular discipline, what they think about it and how they and where they stand on it. You get to learn a lot from the ebook, and you get that free if you pre-order Critical Mass, the paperback. Well, anyway, and also one more thing real quick, and then we're going to move into redefining your self-concept very briefly. And the other one is the power of paradigms. I cannot express deeply enough the power that your paradigms have on influencing your behavior, how you perceive life, where you see yourself in life, how you look at the world around you, and how you feel the world is impacting you and what you're capable of doing. when your paradigms, which is the lens that through which you view life, says that you are stuck in a particular situation because you experienced a particular thing, or it says that because you come from a particular background, there is certain things that you just simply are going to have to be okay with accepting in life, then you tend to view things from the position of a victim. You tend to look at it and say, well, because I come from here, this is all I can expect out of life. And then depending on the people around you, that paradigm has been enforced by a number of different influences. Number one, your primary label givers, those who are most influential in the development and the establishing or the construction of your self-concept or your self-image, are going to be your parents. If your parents are functioning from their own experiences with trauma, their own experiences with lack, their own experiences with poverty, their own experiences with the inability to come out of a particular negative situation, they are going to project that on you. You'll be surprised at some of the things I've heard parents tell their children that creates these limiting beliefs that if this happens in your life, then this is what's going to happen and you're just going to have to deal with it. Or this is going to happen and this is what's going to be. You're going to always be struggling. You'll be surprised how negatively, and I'm not even believing that it's done. I believe that after living in a certain way for so long, you literally accept it as your lot in life. And then you begin to actually take pride in how well you live in your suffering. I see it so often. You know, I did this and I did that and I was able to do this and I found a way to make it happen this week and I'll find a way to make it happen next week. When the truth of the matter is you don't have to struggle forever. Everybody's going to struggle. It's a part of life, but you don't have to struggle forever. You don't have to be locked into this perpetual state of misery, this perpetual state of lack, this perpetual state of disruption and disequilibrium, because that's where you came from. That's what your mother was. That was what your father was. You didn't have a father. You didn't know your father. Whatever situations that the world around you is telling you has you locked into limited and unfulfilling performance in life is not your reality until you accept it. Once you accept it, it becomes a mental parameter that restricts and constricts your ability to move and think. When you start to believe the limiting ideas that are constantly being pushed on you by minimal-minded people, then what happens is you learn to function and operate inside the box. And then you too, at a certain point, become guarders of the parameters of the box. You know, the people who see somebody trying to climb out of the box and find every reason why they need to stay in the box, explaining to them what type of failure they're going to experience if they climb out of the box. All of that stuff that goes on is actually learned behavior influenced and reinforced by limiting beliefs that you don't have to hold. And in that course, The Power of Paradigms, I show a very simple technique that works over and over and over again with me and my clients of how you simply restructure a new paradigm. It takes time, but if you create new rituals that you practice consistently, when you monitor the way that you speak to yourself, you speak about yourself, you'll be surprised how many people speak negatively of themselves without ever thinking. Some people think it's their responsibility to keep it real. So they talk more about where they're at than about where they're going. And that's keeping it real. I don't want to be fake. I don't want to be a fraud. But let me explain something to you. While you're trying to impress the people around you with your state of humility or your state of transparency and outright honesty about your situation, which is truly none of their business if they're not helping you deal with it in a positive manner that will bring you out, it's not even none of their business. But what I can tell you is the very people you're trying to influence and impress with the negative things you talk about that you're currently going through, well, those are people that are not. But let me explain something to you. What we know now for certain is that the brain does not have the capacity to distinguish between what is imagined and what is real. So when you're talking about where you're at, calling things that are not yet as though they were, speaking things into existence and living and talking as if you already have them because they are manifested. But you got to understand the cycle of manifestation. See, cycle of manifestation says that my manifestation of my reality doesn't start in the third dimension. It starts in my thought processes, which is in the fifth dimension. It is where all things are birthed in this world. That's where you call things that are not as though they were. That's where you manifest your reality. The problem is that so many people are manifesting consistently the cycle of the poverty or the pain or the struggle or the disruption in relational issues that they currently see. They're speaking on it too much. They're not looking at what they need to change and changing it. They're not looking at what they need to be and becoming it. They're constantly talking about where they're at, what they don't like, how horrible their job is, how mean their boss is, how they can't ever get a break. Well, see, the thing is, the truth of the nature, the truth of the matter is, until you start speaking power, until you start standing erect, until you start squaring your shoulders and holding up your head and declaring, not in some mystical mindset that you expect something to rain down out of the sky, but saying that within me is the capacity to accomplish and do anything that I set my mind to. If I can conceive it in my mind, then I can create it, I can have it. I will manifest it first in the fifth dimension through my thoughts and expectations for my life. Then, after I manifest it, I will become what I have to be to meet the universe who is now conspiring on my behalf to bring it to me. God created it that way. I don't want the mystical miracle. That's too hard to go find. But what I do know is I gotta, while I'm sitting up waiting on the once in a lifetime miracle, I have the power to manifest everything that I'm waiting on something else or someone else to provide for me with my own capacity that is hidden in the potential of my design. And when I start to learn who I am by rebuilding, reconstructing my self-concept, my self-image, how I see myself and how I influence the world around me, I then begin to develop a mindset that says no matter what happens, I'm not broken, I'm not beaten, I'm not shaken, I'm not disturbed, I'm not moved, not because I'm in denial, but because that I know that my potential is great enough to pull me through it. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. I'm not here for a life of ease. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to have shakeups and mistakes and fall in blunder. I'm not perfect. What it means is that if I set my mind, I have a clear vision, I refuse to relent. I take on a mindset of no surrender, no retreat. I refuse to back up. If you see me backing up, it's because something's in front of me pretty strong pushing me back. But I'm not going to keep going back because I'm going to make the necessary adjustments that bring me the power to overcome it. Because why? My destiny was written in eternity past. And everything that I need is in the energy held by the universe in small molecules called quanta, and that I can call on them when I understand my power. I'm calling on the negative stuff when I speak negative, when I think negative. As a man thinks, so is he. What am I getting at? Excuse me if I'm a little hype about it, but this is something I'm really passionate about because I see far too many people lingering in this wishful state. There are things they wish for, but they dare not even wish too loud because they're afraid of what somebody else might say. They're afraid they'll hear those words, you're not being realistic. And I heard Will Smith say one time, and you probably heard me repeat this, but I heard him say that being realistic is the most traveled path to mediocrity. Being realistic is what everybody tells you when you start to see things at a higher level than they can comprehend or wrap their head around. When you start saying that you're going to do something and someone looks at you and they measure you based on who you were or where you come from or what you've been able to accomplish to this point, and they sit up and they do that, they have already come up with the idea that you don't have what it takes. And so what they're telling you is, reel it in a little, player. You ain't built like that. And see, what they don't understand is that when you start truly understand the nature of how your design interacts with God's creation to bring you the things that your mind conceives, you understand I might not be built like that right now, but I said this is what I'm going to have. I'm going to have it. It's already mine. I'm already becoming it. I'm already transforming. Why? Because now my mind is projecting a different type of energy that is demanding the universe bow down. You only fail when you accept failure. Getting knocked down is not failure. Not hitting a goal at a desired time is not ultimate failure. Those are small breaks. Those are small setbacks. True failure doesn't happen until you accept it. It's kind of like I tell people when I'm talking to them about investing in the market. So many people lose money in the market because when the market makes a correction and it goes on the downside, they panic and they sell. And I tell them all the time, you didn't realize your loss until you sold your asset. When you have an asset that's declining in value and you still own it, and you have enough confidence that what you own will turn around, it will recover. And if it recovers to the point at which it was or close to it, you didn't lose what you thought you lost. But if you sell it, you lock in your loss. And it's the same thing with your mind. When you sit up and you see something and you get knocked down, you get set back, you get turned around, something happens and everybody's looking at you and they're talking about you. It's not until you sit up and say, you know what, I was stupid for doing that. I ain't gonna ever try that again. You just failed because you accepted it. You did now. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have disruptions. It doesn't mean that things won't totally explode. But when you get that marginal failure or that temporary setback, as I like to call it, when you get that temporary setback, accept it. Say, okay, that didn't work. Look at your plan. Look at your direction. Look at your strategy. Examine it. If necessarily, totally reconstruct it and get back out there. You're going to try some things 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. Hell, Edison tried thousands before he got the light bulb. Then he had to call in Louderman to help. But this is what I'm trying to get you to understand. It isn't failure until you quit. And if you just get out there and try, what I try to get my clients to do is say, when I see them really with believing what they're trying to do is going to happen, I'm not trying to get them to get to that in the moment, because some people got dreams. I mean visions. They not shooting for the dwarf goals, the colorless dreams, and what people tell them they can do. They shoot for the stars, and sometimes that's a little huge. That's a little big. It's too much to digest at once. That's not how you get to this big, huge structure. You get an idea, you step back, you visualize this thing you want, and you get the vision so clear that it's implanted in your mind that the moment somebody mentions it, you don't just see it, you can smell it, you can taste it. If it's a new car, you can smell exactly what that car smells like. If you got a car in mind, and I'm not pushing materialism, but sometimes you got to set a goal that drives you. And if a new house or a new car is what drives you to get the ball rolling, Okay, but you should be shooting for some bigger things, impacting things in life. But sometimes you need something to get you rolling that you can put your mind on that'll drive you. If it's a new car that you want, some car that right now you can't afford, take a trip to the dealership. Go on a test drive. Get in that car and let your senses take it in. Remember the smell when you get in it, because each car has a different smell. The Benz doesn't smell like the Beamer. The Beamer doesn't smell like the Lexus. The Lexus doesn't smell like the Audi. The Audi doesn't smell like the Jaguar. And you'll get in these cars and you'll find these different scents. Get that scent to just really speak to you. Get the view and the feel. And what I tell you is, when you really truly take it in and you allow that image to set in, then print out images of what you just experienced. Get them to print it out, or get them to get you the manual. Take the manual, pull those pages out the manual, put them up on a poster board, make you a vision board. Now, every time you look at it, guess what your brain will do? It will literally take you back to that smell. It'll take you back to how it felt to sit in those seats. It'll take you back to how it felt to drive it, feel the power, to feel the steering, to hear the system inside of it, the audio system inside of it, and all of the other bells and whistles that you experience in each one of these different vehicles. It will literally plant it. It will literally wake up, and every time you look at it, you'll smell it. You'll remember it, and it'll drive you. And the thing is, once you've experienced driving it, it's yours, because now you can see yourself in it. You can feel yourself in it because you've been in it. And go visit the house. I don't care if you don't got a dime. Go visit it. Put a picture on the wall. Work toward it. The thing is, you haven't lost it till you stop working toward it. It's when you give up on your vision that you've lost. A lot of people are living with the way someone else defined them. I mean, early in life, like I say, your primary label givers, those that are the most influential towards the development of your self-image or your self-concept, are your parents. A lot of us grew up and came from parents who had struggled in their own upbringing and struggled in life and developed certain paradigms that allowed them to see life from a certain perspective that was not necessarily conducive to advancing in certain specific areas in this life, in this world. And so they found their place and they stayed there. They decided not to challenge the status, not to move against it, not to think highly, because a lot of people will tell you, you're thinking too highly, you're thinking too haughty, you're not being realistic. Everything. The thing is, if you don't learn how to celebrate you and your giftings, you will never truly believe in who you are. You have to be willing to learn and accept and celebrate. It doesn't mean that you look down and be condescending on anyone, but you don't let anyone tell you who you're not. You don't let anyone define who you are. So many of you are literally living your life based on the way someone else defined you. You've allowed someone else's opinion of who you are literally define the parameters of your performance. You have allowed someone else to look at you, analyze, evaluate, and determine what you're worth. You've allowed that. You have, if you're sitting there in a place that you're not happy or content, or expired. We done got content with a lot of things. I try not to use that word. That's something that I read from, and I've shared this with you before. That's something I read from a pastor who was in Charlotte. I think he's actually in Houston now. Stephen Furtick. He wrote a book called Sun Stand Still. And in the book, early in the book, he says that if the vision you have for your life isn't so huge that it's intimidating you, it's probably insulting God. And when I read that, I sit there literally for 30 minutes. And I ask, how many times have I insulted the Almighty by taking the easy route, doing what I knew I could do? How many times have I stood up and came up with something and say, nah, that's pushing it a little bit. Let me go back and, yeah, I got that. I can do that. If I set a goal And I look at it and I absolutely know without a shadow of a doubt, from a strategic perspective, from a conceptual perspective, that I can hit it, it ain't big enough. Now I know from a spiritual and mental perspective, I can do anything I set my mind to. But if I look at it and strategically, or from a place of from my knowledge base, I don't know how it can get done, or I know how it can get done, then it's not huge enough. If I haven't said it, well, it wakes me up in the morning, not anxious, not worried, but ready to grind, knowing that I don't have time to waste because what I'm going after requires my undivided investment for a certain part of the day. That is where you find yourself. When you lay down something so huge that it intimidates you. When you look at the goal and you say, man, what was I thinking when I wrote that? That you got to sit up and say, okay, I got to get better. If it's not driving you to get better, it's not growing you. Your goal should not just be to obtain something. It should be something that drives you to grow from the inside, grow spiritually, grow emotionally, grow psychologically, grow in a way, a better way of wanting to take care of yourself. You and only you are going to be the determining factor in how your life ends up. And it's going to begin with your thoughts, as a man thinks. James Allen wrote it. It's in Proverbs. Napoleon Hill wrote about it. Wallace D. Waddles wrote about it. Earl Nightingale talked about it. Zig Ziglar talked about it. Jim Rohn, Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins, Eric Simmons, Les Brown, and I can go on and on and on. And what I love about every last person that I mentioned, they all started out from meager means. Les Brown tells the story of being born on the floor of a tenement building on the projects, he and his twin brother, and being adopted by Miss Mamie Brown. Every time I hear that story, my head goes up because there's absolutely no way, according to conventional wisdom, that this man should be a multimillionaire. He was then declared in school of being negligibly mentally retarded. It wasn't until the 11th grade that a teacher stopped him and told him, stop saying that about yourself. I don't care what anyone else says about you. You stop saying it about yourself. And that man encouraged him to do something differently. And from that and moving forward, he just stopped being willing to accept no as a final answer. And look at him. I mean, if you look at any of these guys, Tony Robbins starved. His whole motivation came from a person knocking on their door on Thanksgiving and saying, hey, I just want to bless you with this. They didn't even have a Thanksgiving meal. Somebody knocked on that door. From that point, what came into his mind is he's going to be a person that's going to be in a position to help other people. Last I heard, this dude was feeding 50 million people a year through mechanisms that he set up. And we don't have to talk about the wealth. It's automatically, obviously, it's there. But when you become big enough that you impact in the world, you don't have to worry about money. It's coming. If it ain't there already, it's coming. Money is just a means. It's what you're going to do with it that's really going to set your legacy. And that's what you ought to be focused on. I don't want to leave this world not having left a legacy that said I made my presence felt. That the world is just a little bit better because I was here. Lives were changed because I was here. People began to believe in themselves because I was here. And something my wife tells me often, and I love it about her, and I think that's what makes us be able to do what we're able to do in dealing with all the things and challenges we have with a blended family, you know, that has 13 kids. And the thing is, she says, what I like about you and a few other people that I see that's so different than everything else is people know that you weren't born where you are right now, that you weren't birthed with what you work with right now. That the things that you've accomplished in life, you accomplished them having come from a long way. And what it says to people is that no matter where you're at right now, you have the capacity to become anything you want in life. Your beginnings are not indicative of your ending. It just tells you the distance you have to travel. And let me say that again. All your beginning does, once you set your sights on what you want out of life, is tell you the distance you have to travel to have it. You have within yourself the energy, the capacity, the design, the giftings, the talents that need to be refined, worked on, strengthened, and grown, but you have it. So whatever the distance is, you're built for it. I tell myself all the time, I wake up, you're built for this. I don't care what you're facing today, Rick, you're built for it. And when I hit something that's so hard that it causes me to stumble, or it knocks me back, or maybe even knocks me down, I get up, I dust myself off. I'm built for this. I don't start whining. I don't start pointing the finger. I don't start crying and complaining about why me. Oh, nothing ever happens right for me. I just need a break. I don't need a break. I'm about to create that. But it starts with your ability to look at yourself and change how you see yourself. You have to change that. You got to see that you have the capacity. You got to be willing to search your design to understand that there are some unique talents. I have yet, I'm going to end on this note, I have yet in all of what I've done and the many people I've worked with professionally, the people I've encountered casually, the people I've just known and studied, I have yet to meet a person. I don't care about their IQ. I don't care about their socioeconomic background and status. I don't care about where they were born. I have yet to, whether they had Down syndrome, whether they had autism, whether they were declared to be some way mentally retarded. I have yet to meet a person that didn't have a gift, that didn't have some form of genius on the inside of them. I don't care who it is. You just got to be willing as a parent, if that's your child, and there are challenges from what way the world sees them, you got to be willing to invest in them and find it. And it's your responsibility as a parent to find it. And I tell you, it's a shame how many adults come to me and are completely unaware of it. And that's one of the things I'm going to help you find your gift. I'm going to help you find your talent. I'm going to help you reconstruct that self-concept, that self-image. Because until you change how you see yourself, because see how you see yourself impacts your self-esteem, your self-confidence. If you don't deal with those, if you don't have those set right, everything else you're going to expect from your life is going to reflect how you see yourself and your level of self-esteem and your level of self-confidence. So it's about changing all of those things. But what I can tell you is this: there's absolutely nothing that your mind can conceive that you can't have. I know you've been trained to see all of the reasons why you can't. So when there are certain things that pop in your mind, you automatically ask your brain to tell you why you can't do it, instead of asking your brain to tell you why you can. So your brain is a servo mechanism. It's like Google. It takes all the information that you feed it constantly, whether you feed it consciously or subconsciously. It takes it, your subconscious your non-conscious brain stores it, and it literally has all this information, and then it can go find and identify information in the world around it. Remember, all of its energy, and it's able to connect to the energy that you emit. So when you sit up and ask your brain, why is it that I always fail? Why is it that I can't get relationships right? Why is it that I can't properly and effectively communicate and interact with people? Why do I get nervous when I'm around people? Why is it that I can't make good network connections to grow my business? Your brain is going to go out and find all of the reasons why. But if you start asking the right questions based on the expectations you have about how you see yourself, what do I need to change? How can I be more successful? What is going to make me win? How do I keep this business growing? How do I save my marriage? How do I become a better husband? How do I become a better wife? How do I become a better parent? How do I become a better friend? How do I become more impactful in my community? Your brain will find it. When you constantly tell your brain what it is you really find important, what you're really passionate about, your brain will start to categorize and identify based on it. It can't help it. The reticular activating system is what does that. It filters what's not important to you and it finds what is. And if you're constantly talking about what you don't like, what you hate, why you're so miserable, it's going to consistently identify that stuff and find it. And so you'll consistently be in that state. You have to change how you're thinking, how you see yourself, what you expect from yourself. And that's a process you go through to do that. But when you do it ritually, when you do it daily, you'll find that things are changing. You'll find that things that used to upset you don't upset you anymore. You'll find that things that used to make you fearful, you're not fearful anymore. It's amazing what the mind does. The mind is controlling every reality that you're engaging, and you have to learn how to control the mind. Come on, y'all. Y'all know what I'm talking about. This and I'm gone. One of the most quoted verses in the Bible, yet one of the most misapplied or unapplied verse in the Bible. Now, this is application. This isn't religion. This is application revealed through religion. It says, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, physical things you can look at, strategies and touches, but mighty in God for the pulling down of strongholds. It says, casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. What is it saying? It's saying anything that moves against your faith and your belief, whatever that faith and whatever that belief is, whatever you determine to be your reality and what you're going to stand on, anything that moves against it, you cast it down immediately. You speak against it, stand against it, refuse to allow it to become a part of what's influencing your thought. In fact, it says bringing every thought into captivity. You've got to control it. You've got to be in charge of what you're thinking. You've got to be in charge of how you see things. The vast majority of us are actually living lives based off of what someone else is dictating. We're not casting down arguments. We're not bringing thoughts into captivity. We're not guarding our hearts and minds. All the different times that you're told how important your mind and your thoughts are throughout the Bible, if that's what you are, a practicing Christian, throughout the Quran, if you are a practicing Muslim, and whether you're talking about Buddhism, Hinduism, the mind is still the center force, because what you do with the mind is going to determine the reality in every other way. And that's how the world and the universe is built. Those who are successful have learned how to guard and monitor and control what they think and use what they think to create what they want. It's that simple. You can have the best plan in the world and don't have the right mindset, and you're not going to get anywhere. With that being said, I'm going to check out of here. I absolutely love you guys. Like I said, you can get critical. You can pre-order critical mass by the link that's in the post box, and you can also access the Power of Paradigms course if you want to learn how to create massive paradigm shifts. And you do get personal support with that course to make sure that you're doing it right and to make sure that you're getting what you need to get out of it. So you will actually get to interact with me with that course, even though it's a personal course that you go through by yourself. There are points and times where you get to interact with me. With that being said, I absolutely am honored to be able to share what I share with you guys. I'm a person that's still learning, still growing, still trying to become. And it is a pleasure to be able to share with you the level and the depths that I've been able to achieve and access and master. There's still a lot out there and I'm still going after it. But the thing is, you have to start. You have to start somewhere. You have to be okay with starting somewhere. You have to be okay with not knowing everything. Um, and there's nothing wrong with that. I wake up every day knowing that there's more I don't know than what I do know. And that means that's simply work to be done. And that's how you have to wake up, because that's how you grow. You grow by learning more about what you're doing. You tend to be manipulated, controlled, and misused when you don't have an understanding of how things work. So with that being said, I'm going to get off of here. Uh, I encourage you, if nothing else, get the book. It's a great deal. It's a lot to, I mean, it's comprehensive. It takes you through all the processes and techniques that I use when I work with my client, and the different disciplines that I incorporate into the Visionetics concept at the Visionetics Institute. And if you're ready to start taking one of those techniques and putting them to use, that Power of Paradigms course is something you would want to get into. But whatever you do, know that I'm going to be coming throughout the week. And I'm going to try to do at least 4 times a week where I'm coming at you and sharing with you some things. And some of the things you're going to hear consistently. Why? Those are seeds that I'm consistently planting, that if you come long enough, you'll start to see your life change. It's amazing how these thoughts, these seeds start out. And if you just get one thing and you keep hearing it, it becomes a part of your reality, and it starts to change the way you think. It's amazing. But anyway, I absolutely adore this. Like I always say, I am going to die on E. I encourage you to do the same thing. I'm out of here. Peace.